Hello there guys and welcome to this weekend's live stream of IFMC. I am JWF1 and we are here at Sao Paulo here in Interlagos for the Brazilian Grand Prix. And yes, we are finally live this weekend. I do apologise for everything that has happened during this weekend, which has kind of miffed me off. Firstly, on Friday there was no press conference due to a technical problem that happened with my internet yet again. I'm starting to consider strangling the box, to be honest with you. And then today, I initially scheduled this for 12 PM GMT, but because I was walking down there, I had to change my plans. So, which meant I had to get there for about 11:15, which quickly changed to 12:30, which meant that I would have had to go there just towards the end of qualifying, which wouldn't have helped proceeding. So I've had to push it back to 7 PM GMT. But everything is sorted now. Everything is relaxed. We can calm down and get on with this then. So, as you can see, it is bright and sunny here in Brazil, and just a note of a couple of things as well. Eldorado do have a little bit of a livery update. They have a new sponsor in the form of Dacia. Yes, before anybody from Romania corrects me and says it's Dacia, that's how it's pronounced in Romania, but over here in the UK, it's pronounced as Dacia. So, just before anybody tries to correct me there, I am right in that. It's pronounced Dacia, but I know in Romania where it's built, it's pronounced Dacia. So, that's that then. And on top of that as well, 10 out of the 11 teams have brought upgrades in for this weekend, whereas last weekend it was 8. It has been up to 10 this weekend, so all but one have brought an upgrade here at Brazil. And remember, this was originally meant to be the Chinese Grand Prix in Shanghai, but due to issues with that track, it has been changed to the Pacific Grand Prix in Adelaide, but to avoid two Australian races clashing back to back, it has switched with Brazil, so we now are at the Brazilian Grand Prix for round 2, but hopefully it doesn't spoil the enjoyment. So as you can see, bright and sunny here at Sao Paulo. We have 35 minutes of action, so without further ado, let's get to the qualifying session. So, here we are then in the pit lane, and we're going to go to the end of the pit lane then with Mr. Oliver Rowland. So we will wait and get this session underway. It is a 35-minute session here at Interlagos, and we'll wait for the first set of cars to come out. If you didn't see what happened last weekend at the Australian Grand Prix, it was Esteban Ocon who got it right in terms of strategy to beat the Etihad to take his first win since Season 2 and Martini's first ever Grand Prix victory as well, which means so far Ocon and Martini lead both championships earlier on, but the Etihads are close behind and looking to give them competition this weekend and hopefully work on strategy, which is their weak point from last weekend. But the first man out on track then is Charles Leclerc in the Shadow Mercedes. He's out on track and hoping to put on an impression if he can as he goes up towards the double left-hander. Now, of course, last weekend, his teammate, Carlos Sainz Jr., managed to get into the points, finishing in 8th place, which means Shadow are so far in 5th place in the Constructors' Championship. So far, it has been quite a good start for the Etihad B team, as it's been nicknamed. And Leclerc hoping to add some points as well after retiring in the race last weekend due to a mechanical problem. And he's hoping that doesn't repeat itself this weekend as he just goes through the right-hander as well. And team boss James Walmsley pretty optimistic about the team's chances this season in them moving from the back of the field to being a competitive midfield team. And so the Shadow coming around the final corner. Also on track with him, we have Kevin Magnussen. Both Suomi's pretty much getting into the points last weekend, doing a good job. Nico Hulkenberg out there as well for EMR, as is Pascal Wehrlein in the AMP. Brendan Hartley out on track, as is Fernando Alonso in the Etihad. Sergio Perez out on track with their new sponsor Dacia. There it is on the engine cover. So a new partnership in the form of Dacia. His teammate also out there in the form of Valtteri Bottas. Oliver Rowland out on track, as is Carlos Sainz Jr., Antonio Giovinazzi, Max Verstappen and Daniel Ricciardo. Those guys are out as Charles Leclerc now then on his first flying lap, along with everybody else behind him at the moment. One of them being, of course, Kevin Magnussen in the Suomi, as now Leclerc goes up towards the right-hander now then and through in towards the left. And Leclerc pushing as hard as possible to see, because he'll be the one setting the benchmark of time for everybody to beat. And so far, along with EMR, both 2 out of the 3 Mercedes-powered teams managed to score points last time out in Melbourne. So Monster looking to try and add to that, considering they came pretty close last time out with Hartley, only to just miss out on the points. Hartley, of course, finishing 9th at his sort of home Grand Prix, because there isn't a New Zealand Grand Prix, but Australia is next door to New Zealand, so it kind of counts if you want to look at it that way. Leclerc does a 1 minute 13.726, and Magnussen slots into second. Hulkenberg third with that lap. Here comes Pascal Wehrlein in the AMP. He crosses the line, goes to 4th. Brendan Hartley crosses the line, 5th place for him. Fernando Alonso in the Etihad goes fastest at the moment with that lap, so Alonso going to the top of the timing sheets. Here comes Sergio Perez coming out of the final corner then, as he heads down the pit straight, and across the line goes Sergio Perez, and he goes to second with that lap. Valtteri Bottas P4 for the Finn, as here comes Oliver Rowland, who's coming out of those final few corners. And let's see what Rowland can manage as he heads down the pit straight. Rowland crosses the line, P9 for the young Brit. Here comes Carlos Sainz Jr. in the shadow, the other shadow that is, as he comes down the pit straight. And Sainz is going to cross the line. What's the time going to be? He slots to 4th so far with that lap. Here comes Antonio Giovinazzi in the Bud Light line, heading through these corners now, then heading down the pit straight. Giovinazzi crosses the line, goes 6th fastest with that lap. Only P4 there for Max Verstappen, P8 for Daniel Ricciardo, as Charles Leclerc coming into the pits. It looked like Verstappen might have got a little bit hold up on his lap there, and looking to try and improve. But at the moment, it is currently Alonso at the top of the timing sheets in the Etihad, with I believe Sergio Perez currently in 2nd place, and Charles Leclerc surprisingly in 3rd. But we've still got 8 people to do laps, and of course some people on this sort of flying lap. Of course, let's not forget, may have got held up on their laps. So of course we need to wait and see if the track starts to rubber in a little bit in this 35-minute session. Only 4 flying laps to play around with. Just judged by how Grand Prix 3 coding works when it comes to drivers doing flying laps. And so that's that then really, and all those 12 laps also counting towards out laps and in laps. Let's not forget Sergio Perez going into his box there, as a few cars are waiting to go out onto the track. Daniel Ricciardo, here he is, currently, where is he at the moment? Currently in 8th place. The GRM pretty much slipping back into the midfield, it must be said, in Australia. And so far it looks like it must have continued here in Brazil. And from my understanding, the team boss George Roque is currently not here, in fact, in Brazil. I think he's away on a business meeting, I believe. So from what I understand anyway. So anyway, Ricciardo then just going down pit lane as he just pulls into his box, and it looks like the early championship leader Esteban Ocon is going out onto the track. I believe it was him. Yes, it was a Martini I was looking at. It was Ocon, the early championship leader, but Grosjean's the first man out of track on this group of cars, as the sparks come off the back of the Frenchman's car. And so far not being the top Frenchman in IFMC at the moment. So far that's going towards Esteban Ocon at the moment, with his victory in Australia last weekend, after pretty much pipping the Etihad in terms of strategy. Clearly not on straight line speed. We could clearly see that in Australia the Etihad still had the pace down the straight compared to everybody else, but in terms of strategy it seemed that Martini were just that little bit smarter than Etihad last weekend. Etihad hoping to put that to bed if they can, and hopefully try and beat the Martinis this weekend. They know they have the pace to do so, they just need to be a little bit smarter when it comes to strategy. So Grosjean then coming out of the final few corners, then we go, and Grosjean about to start his first flying lap now then, as he just comes out of the final few corners then. And so far Bud Light Motorsport have definitely been struggling in terms of pace this season. The team not where they want to be at the present moment, with Bud Light Lime currently down in the midfield. But Grosjean through turns 2 and 3 he goes as quickly as possible, as they now go up towards the double left-hander. Grosjean again, the sparks continuing to come out the back of his car there as he just comes out of those next few corners then. Grosjean heading up the hill towards turn number 6, I believe this is, and 7, because it's a double right-hander through into here before approaching this a long sequence of hairpins around this track in the middle sector. Grosjean, I believe, coming up towards the end of sector 2 pretty soon. I think either just before this hairpin or just after the hairpin is the end of sector 2. And let's see then. So, in fact, I think the end of sector 2 is actually down here, in fact. So, now coming up towards the final sector then. Let's see what Romain Grosjean is able to do then as he comes out of the final corner then, and onto the pit straight. Grosjean now then about to power across the line, and let's see what he's able to do. Grosjean then across the line he goes, and goes 7th with that lap. Here comes Stoffel Van Dorn in the AMP, and pretty much AMP quoting to be so far a disaster. They're also struggling along with their fellow Audi team, as it's only 12th for Van Dorn, 6th only for Ocon that time around, so Ocon only managing P6 with that lap. Ed Jones P16, as Vettel behind's just started a lap, hoping that Jones doesn't hold him up. Magnussen also starting a lap. Here comes Kimi Raikkonen, and he goes to 3rd place with that lap, so P3 for Kimi Raikkonen, as now Giovinazzi comes up towards the final corner then, and Gio, let's see what he's able to post on this lap as he just comes out of the second to last corner then. And is Giovinazzi looking at an improvement? Giovinazzi crosses the line. No, he doesn't. Stays 10th with that lap. Jean-Eric Vergne 16th. P11 only for Hulkenberg. Got held up again on that lap, it appears. So only P11 for Hulkenberg. Here comes Dixon, as it looks like Hamilton's being held up by Dixon. So Hamilton's looking like he's not going to get a good first lap in. P18 for Dixon. P9 for Lewis Hamilton because of the hold up. As it's still P4 for Leclerc. So far Leclerc's doing a good job in qualifying at the moment. And a lot of guys getting held up, it appeared, on their lap. And Vettel's now starting to get held up as well. So earmark a lot of people getting bad luck when it comes to the traffic here in Brazil. As was that Jones in front, I believe? Jones, it was Jones. He's currently 20th after his lap. As Magnussen there crossed the line, and 12th for him. Where's Vettel? And I believe we've missed him. In fact, where did Vettel come? Vettel was 17th as a result of the hold up. A lot of people getting held up on their laps. Clearly, this track has also been known in the past to be quite painful when it comes to traffic, because it's obviously quite a short track. So obviously that's clearly continued on here this weekend here at Interlagos, and so far it's pretty much shaking up the grid a little bit with Leclerc up in 4th place in the shadow. So that's that at the moment, but I would expect improvements to possibly come a little bit later on in the session, so don't jump to conclusions straight away. As Hamilton now then just goes into pit lane, as he's currently in 9th place at the moment in the Etihad, and hoping to see if he can try and get a clear, exit out the pits. So well, a clear track in front, I should say. But at the moment it is currently Alonso still at the top of the timing sheets, the 3-time champion at the top, with I believe Perez in 2nd place in the Eldorado, and then in 3rd is Kimi Raikkonen, and 4th is Charles Leclerc. It shows how much the traffic is definitely pretty much shake things up at the moment, but I would expect improvements to come, as I've said, a little bit later on in the session. So don't expect this to be the final result by the end of it, guys. So that's that. Would you mind not dragging my chair, James? Thank you. That's that then. So now out on track, we've got a few more cars coming out onto the track. One of them being the man who's currently on pole, Fernando Alonso. His fellow compatriot Carlos Sainz Jr. is also out on track. Shadow so far doing quite a good qualifying session at the moment with 4th and 6th, but I wouldn't be surprised if they start tumbling down once cars that are currently faster than the Shadow in terms of raw pace find a gap in the traffic and actually start to put the foot down. So Sainz now then, as he goes up towards the hairpin, as he dipped through a few gears into that corner then, as we now go up towards the final few corners on the track. Sainz prepared to start his lap along with fellow compatriot Fernando Alonso, who's hoping to improve on his pole position time at the moment. Sainz through the left-hander he goes, as now he'll head down the pit straight, and Sainz crosses the line, and he just starts his lap now then, as he'll head down the hill towards turns 1, 2 and 3. The S's, of course. I think this is also known as the Senna S's as well. There's also one in San Marino in Imola, but this is also known as the Senna S, as some traffic came out in front of Alonso in the form of Jean-Eric Vergne. So that's not what Fernando Alonso wanted to see coming out of the pit lane, some traffic coming out. And it's definitely turn 2, I would think, where most of the traffic issues are coming from. Because the pit lane, as he rejoins, because obviously this is a different version of Brazil, the pit lane entrance and exit are different to what it is nowadays. Obviously the exit is coming out of turn 2 rather than turn 3, as it is in real life. And a lot of people have to jam on the brakes when they see somebody coming out of the pit lane, because it literally rejoins right on the racing line. And so, as a result, it does compromise a lap. And I think that's what we've seen so far with guys so far on their first flying laps. And it's definitely caught out Alonso on his second flying lap there as Verne came out of the pits in the GRM. But anyway, Sainz now then. Up, down the pit straight we go. And let's see what Carlos Sainz is able to do on this lap now then. Sainz is going to cross the line. And he stays P6 with that lap, no improvement. Alonso doesn't improve because of the hold up. Verne starts the lap, as is Jones. Still 22nd for Oliver Rowland and still 19th for teammate Brendan Hartley. Here comes Max Verstappen. Is this going to be an improvement then for the Dutchman? And it is, but he goes up to 4th for that lap. Only P4 for Max Verstappen as Perez behind starts a lap. Still 16th for Pascal Wehrlein. As we now look at Daniel Ricciardo, who's just coming around the final few corners then. And Danny Rick is going to cross the line. The Honey Badger currently 14th. This is going to be an improvement for him. No, it's not. Stays 14th with that lap then. As we now look at Stoffel Vandoorne, who just comes out of that left-hander now then and up towards the final few corners on the track. And let's see what Stoffel is able to do then on this lap as he comes down the pit straight. Currently 15th. Currently out qualifying teammate Wehrlein. Doesn't improve. Stays 15th. For the moment. Here comes Valtteri Bottas in the Eldorado. Across the line he goes. And he goes up to 4th with that lap. A big improvement for Valtteri Bottas. Looks like this track may suit the Eldorados, it appears. As it's still 10th for Romain Grosjean. Bullet Lime still struggling. It looks like maybe Eldorado may have found a corner in terms of pace this weekend. They were hoping that this weekend won't have a repeat of Australia, and so far it's going well for the Romanian team. Still 21st for Ed Jones on that lap. On top of that as well, they also confirmed that their GP3 team, Vegeta Racing, as Perez stays second, will be having a name change. It will change from Vegeta Racing to Dacia Eldorado Jr. So that will be the new name for their GP3 team when that gets started at the Spanish Grand Prix weekend, which is in 3 races time. And obviously, of course, let's not forget, on Monday we have the preseason test for IFMC GP2. I'm still waiting for 3 lures off on Ollie, but I believe he will be sending them, I think, either tonight or in the early hours of tomorrow morning. Possibly when the Australian Grand Prix is on tomorrow, of course, which sees Lewis Hamilton on pole. I'm hoping there's rain for tomorrow's Formula 1 race, because that will spice things up. I don't think Melbourne has had a wet Australian Grand Prix since 2010, from what I understand. So that's that then. So space of 8 years. I might be wrong, but I think that's the last time it's had a wet race over in Melbourne. So yeah, so now then, as you can see, Perez now then coming back into the pits, and Lewis Hamilton is now out on track for Etihad and looking to try and find a gap in the traffic to improve on P9, hoping he can try making an Etihad lockout on the front row and make it 2 pole positions in a row. But he wasn't able last time out to convert that pole position into a victory, just due to the fact that Martini were just able to get the strategy perfect in the wet conditions. But it's very clear, judging from Australia, especially when they came down the pit straight, the Etihad still has the edge down the start-finish straight. The BMW is still the most powerful on the grid, it appears. And but Ferrari appear to be the second quickest, because at the moment Audi seem to have dropped back a little bit, and it seems that Mercedes either equal to them, and they just seem to have some better downforce, most of the Mercedes powered teams, or they're just slightly ahead of them at the moment. It remains to be seen on that regard, but so far both Audi powered teams, Bud Light Motorsport and AMP, appearing to struggle so far this season, and are hoping that very soon they can get a turn in performance, as Hamilton now then heads down the pit straight to start his next flying lap now then, as he heads down the pit straight up towards turn 1 he will go in the Etihad, as he drops down the gears through turn 2, and around turn 3 we go. And Hamilton, as the sparks come off the back of his Etihad, he's got a clear track in front, nobody holding him up on this lap like last time around with Scott Dixon. He's got a clear track in front and hoping to push as hard as possible on this lap then. Out of turn number 5 he goes up towards turn 6, as he dips down a couple of gears through into that corner up towards the hairpin. So now we go through the left-hander now then, out the corner, and now up towards the right-hander now then. And let's see what Hamilton is able to do on this flying lap this time around, as he just goes around the left-hander. How many minutes have we got to go left in the session? We have just under 17 minutes left in the session. Hamilton already up by a lot on his personal time in the middle sector. But let's see where this is going to place Lewis Hamilton then. Out of the final corner then, onto the pit straight goes Lewis Hamilton, and across the line goes the Brit. What's it going to be? And it's fastest for Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton goes fastest. Hamilton at the top of the timing sheet. It's so far an Etihad 1-2 in qualifying. Ocon improves to P5 on that lap. Alonso doing a lot of lap to see if he can try and snatch back pole from teammate Hamilton. As Hulkenberg now about to start a lap. Vettel crosses the line, goes P6 with that lap. So an improvement for Sebastian Vettel to get up to 6th place. As his teammates now starting a lap as Roland starts on. Here comes Scott Dixon in the Mars Grand Prix car. He goes up to 19th, so a slight improvement for him. Leclerc stays P9 for the time being, as a lot of guys are starting to improve. So as I predicted, the shadows are starting to drop down a little bit, as everybody now seems to have found a gap in the traffic. Giovinazzi goes up into 11th place. Raikkonen, 3rd place still for him at the moment, and improves on his best time by 900ths of a second. P9 now for Kevin Magnussen, so up to 9th place goes his teammate. The Suomis have definitely improved since testing, and they showed that in Australia. They seem to have got back to the form of pace they had last season, where sometimes they could be up at the front depending on what track it is, and sometimes they could just be fighting for points on a regular basis, and sometimes they could just be fighting outside the points, depending on what track it is. As Hartley goes up to 19th, a slight improvement for the New Zealander. As now here comes Fernando Alonso. Can he try and beat his teammate off the pole at the moment? Etihad currently locking out the front row at the moment. Alonso across the line goes to Spaniard. And can he go quicker? Yes, he can. Alonso back to the top of the timing sheets. Alonso goes fastest. Beats Hamilton, and Alonso back to the top of the timing sheets. Hulkenberg across the line he goes, and he goes 4th with that lap. So P4 for Nico Hulkenberg. So the EMR getting up into 4th place at this stage. His teammate now down in 7th as a result of that. So far, Hulkenberg out qualifying teammate Vettel at the moment. It seems that the Martinis at the moment seem to be struggling with traffic, or this track just doesn't seem to suit them at this stage. So we'll wait and see on that. And but anyway, Raikkonen into the pits he goes. Here comes Carlos Sainz Jr. in the shadows. Is this an improvement? Nope, stays 12th with that lap. So Carlos Sainz staying P12 at the moment in qualifying. And so now lap time starting to tumble down just a little bit at this stage, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Martinis may start to pick up the pace. We'll see if it's just traffic that's their issue, and because I don't think they've dipped down in terms of performance, that's for sure, at the moment. But Alonso back into the pits, the man currently on pole. We have just over 14 minutes of this qualifying session remaining. Alonso only has one more flying lap to go before his qualifying session comes to a close. Daniel Ricciardo now out on track in the GRM, as Ricciardo now just goes through the double left-hander now. Then he'll be preparing to start his next flying lap, as he just goes out of the left-hander now, then through the next few corners on the track. Then he goes, and now up towards the right-hander goes Daniel Ricciardo. Through he goes out the corner, heading up the hill towards the hairpin. And Ricciardo preparing to start his next flying lap, as Verstappen is back out onto the track, and he's hoping to get a better lap in, as he's got some clear track in front. Bottas back out, as is Pascal Wehrlein, Romain Grosjean, Jean-Emic Verne, Stoffel Van Dorn, Scott Dixon, Esteban Ocon, Ed Jones, Kimi Raikkonen, Carlos Sainz Jr., Sergio Perez. All those guys are expected to come back out, and Ricciardo's hoping that none of them in front coming out of the pit lane will be holding him up on this flying lap. As now Ricciardo goes up towards turns 1 and 2 and 3 on the track, and let's see what he's able to do then, as he just comes out of turn 2 and around turn 3 he goes, as he'll now head down towards the double left-hander then on the track, and we'll see if he's looking at an improvement then. So through he goes, out the corner, around the left-hander goes the Honey Badger, as he'll come up towards the end of sector 1 on the track now then, dipping down a few gears up towards the sequence of long hairpins in the middle sector, and he's hoping that the Mars Grand Prix car in front of him, the Porsche powered Mars Grand Prix car, doesn't hold him up. And so around the right hander then goes Daniel Ricciardo, and let's see then what his lap time is going to be, as he will now go up towards the final few corners. Up the hill goes Daniel Ricciardo, and he's now going to power across the line now then. And let's see then, so Ricciardo down the pit straight and across the line he will go. Ricciardo crosses the line and he stays 15th with that lap, no improvement. As Perez starts a lap, as will Esteban Ocon, his teammate now then, going up on his personal best by 0.2 of a second. So Verstappen on for a massive improvement. Let's see where this is going to put him up then. So Verstappen out of the second to last corner. Down the pit straight he goes. Verstappen now then. Across the line goes the Dutchman. He crosses the line and goes only 7th with that lap. He lost a lot of time in the last sector. Don't know if he caught his teammate Slipstream, Dirty Air or whatever. But that's not where I expected Verstappen to be. And so I'll start then really as we just go around the left-hander now then on the track. As who's also on a lap, I didn't say. 17th for Verla at the moment, he's still struggling. Here comes Romain Grosjean then, who heads down the pit straight and across the line goes the Frenchman. And he stays 14th for that lap. Jean-Eric Verne, his fellow compatriot in the GRM. Verne crosses the line, improves but stays 18th. Stoffel Van Dorn in the AMP, improves but stays 16th. Jones now then through the final few corners, currently 21st of the minute. There goes Ricciardo diving back into the pits behind him. Jones crosses the line and improves but stays in second to last for the minute. Here comes Sergio Perez in the Eldorado. Perez crosses the line and goes up to third. So Perez with a big improvement to get up into third place in that Eldorado there. So good job from him at the moment. Here comes Esteban Ocon in the Martini across the line. Goes Ocon, is this an improvement? And it is, but he stays 6th for the moment. Martini clearly may not be suited to this track, it appears, at the moment, with them down in 6th and 7th. So, but they've still got the race. They might be just focusing on the race, it must appear, as Hamilton gets held up on his lap. So any chance of taking pole on this lap goes down the toilet. Dixon improved, but stayed in P20, as it saw there on his steering wheel. But we'll go to Lewis Hamilton, who's on a lap, even though his lap was compromised there by Scott Dixon. So far, the Etihad's currently locking out the front row at the moment, with Alonso top and Hamilton in second place at the moment. Hamilton now then up towards the right-hander we go, as he'll go up towards the hairpin now then. Hamilton trying to see if he can try and capitalise some of the time back. I doubt it, but we will wait and see, as he will now go up towards this right-hander. Just over 9 minutes and 20 seconds remaining in this qualifying session to determine the grid for tomorrow's Brazilian Grand Prix. As now up towards the left-hander we go. And Hamilton now then goes up the hill towards the left-hander. And let's see what the lap time is going to be. Either way, Hamilton down the pit straight and across the line goes the Brit. And no improvement, stays in P2. He could have been on for a quicker lap had it not been for the hold-up of Scott Dixon there. Well, that's that. Back on track now then goes Sebastian Vettel in the EMR. And it's just trying to find that time really around this track, as Vettel now then preparing to start his next flying lap as he goes up towards the left-hander now then, using as much curb as possible. Up the hill he goes then through towards the next corner on the track. Down the pit straight he will go, as Vettel now starts his next flying lap in the EMR as he goes up towards turns 1, 2 and 3 on the track. Sparks continuing to come off the back of his Mercedes powered EMR through turn 2 and around turn 3 he goes. And let's see now then what his first sector is going to be like. In fact, we won't. So far he's actually just coming up towards the end of his first sector, which I think is actually here, but just before he goes through this left-hander and up towards turns 6 and 7, I believe it says, the uphill, these quick section of right-handers before going towards the swooping long hairpins that are around the middle sector. Out the corner he goes then up towards the right-hander. And we'll be able to see in a little bit what Sebastian Vettel's middle sector is going to be like, as he now goes up the hill now then. As it will come down the pit straight. Vettel is now going to cross the line. And let's see then, Vettel across the line goes the German. And let's see what the time's going to be. And he goes up to third. So Vettel now up into third place. A big improvement from the German. Vettel now up into P3 with that lap. Leclerc behind him has just started a lap. Here comes Kevin Magnussen heading down the pit straight, and across the line he goes, and he stays 10th on his final flying lap. And so far the maximum he can get out of it will be P10 on the grid. Most of the guys on the final flying laps. Here comes Nico Hulkenberg. The EMR looking quite good around here in Brazil. As Hulkenberg now then coming across the line. Can he get his EMR onto the same row? No, he can't. He improves on his best time but stays P6. His teammate yet again out qualifying him in qualifying for the second race in a row. Alonso preparing to start his last final lap, the current pole sitter at this stage. We now look at Charles Leclerc in the Shadow Mercedes, currently just outside the top 10. Can he try enough pace perhaps to knock Magnussen outside the top 10 in the Suomi, as the Shadow looking quite good to have a competitive chance in the midfield this weekend. Yet again, like in Australia, the Shadow really, I must say, a very big improvement from last season after switching to Mercedes engines. Leclerc then down the pit straight, and he goes up to 9th, so Leclerc gets the car into the top 10 as Ricciardo behind starts his next flying lap. So a big improvement there from Charles Leclerc. Everybody improving all the time, as I've just hit the wrong button there. There you go. Just over 5 minutes now left in the session. Giovinazzi across the line goes the Italian. Is this going to be an improvement for him? And it is, but he stays 13th. So again, another dismal qualifying session for Antonio Giovinazzi. Oliver Rowland crosses the line and stays in last, improves his best time, but still going to be 22nd on the grid. And obviously the news coming around as his teammate also improves, Brendan Hartley, but stays 19th. The news obviously that Monster Grand Prix is being put up for sale. Waste Cuba selling the team, and we should be finding out next week who the new team boss will be for Monster Grand Prix before rebranding it next season. Bottas goes up to 9th, so he gets the car into the top 10 with that lap, but still not close to teammate Sergio Perez. Sainz stays 12th. Alonso doesn't improve, says a 1 minute 30.141. Verstappen goes up to 3rd. So Verstappen finding some pace at last and gets the car onto the second row of the grid. Verstappen now up to 3rd, but still not able to break the 1-2 for Etihad, as Ricciardo stays in 15th with that lap there then. As now we look at Pascal Wehrlein in the AMP, as he just goes out of the left-hander up towards the final few corners on the track. Wehrlein about to complete his next flying lap now then, as he will go through the left-hander now then. Wehrlein is going to cross the line, and Pascal Wehrlein, can he improve from P17 across the line? And no, he can't. Wehrlein stays 17th. AMP clearly still struggling as his teammate is about to start his final flying lap. And that's that then at the present moment. Alonso still fastest at the moment with teammate Hamilton in 2nd. Etihad currently locking out the front row. Verstappen now 3rd. Vettel 4th with, I believe it is Perez who's in 5th. And then it is Raikkonen 6th. Ocon 7th. I think that's my guess. I could be wrong on that, so only take my comments with a pinch of salt that time around. But here's Stoffel Vandoorne then currently on a flying lap in the AMP, hoping to give something to AMP if he can, possibly try and get the car up close to the top 10 if he can. That would be something, I suppose, for AMP, as we now go up through the right-hander. And let's see then, so Vandoorne out of the left-hander, he goes then using as much of the curve as possible as he goes up towards the hairpin. And Vandoorne now then down the hill through the left-hander he goes, and let's see what Vandoorne is able to do on this lap now then, as he heads out of the corner up towards the final few corners. Then goes Stoffel Vandoorne, and let's see, can he improve from P16 across the line? Goes Vandoorne, and let's see, can he improve? No, he can't. Stays in 16th place. AMP with still a lot to do, as Vettel and Hamilton are about to come out yet again on track to do that. That's Perez on his final flying lap. Looks to be held up by Grosjean, so his final flying lap being compromised, but at least Eldorado can take some satisfaction that it is an improvement from qualifying the last weekend, especially for Perez, who finally gets the car into a good position and into the top 10 this weekend. Perez has always been good around here in Brazil, and it seems to have continued here this weekend. this season as well. Perez does not improve because of the hold up and stays 5th. He could have been on for an improvement had he not been held up by Grosjean that time around. Verne and I believe that was Raikkonen have just started the next flying laps. Van Dorn going back into the pits. We look at Ed Jones then in the Mars Grand Prix car. And of course, let's not forget, 10 out of the 11 teams have brought upgrades for this weekend. So a big improvement from what it was in Australia. As now Jones goes up towards the right-hander. And let's see then what he is able to do on this next flying lap. Jones currently 21st. He will want to get out of that back row of the grid, just like his teammate at the moment. His teammate is currently in 20th. Well, I've been saying that. It looks like at the moment one of the Mars Grand Prix cars is going to be qualifying on the back row of the grid, but luckily for them, it's not going to be last because Rowland has finished off his final flying laps, and it's going to be last place for Ollie Rowland in the monster car. Here comes Ed Jones then, who heads down the pit straight, and across the line he goes, and he goes up to 20th, so a slight improvement there for Jones. He goes up one place up into P20. I think that now puts him in front of Scott Dixon. An improvement for Grosjean, but he stays 14th, so Bud Light Line Motorsports sharing the same row, still struggling at the moment, still 18th. For Jean-Eric Verne, still sit for Raikkonen. Looked like he got held up by Verne there. Hamilton starts his final flying lap. As now we have 30 seconds left in the session. As Dixon is on for an improvement now. Then as he's gone up on the middle sector on his personal best. Ocon also, I don't know if that said he was on an improvement, but we will wait and see anyway. As 18 seconds left through the last few corners on the track. Then go Scott Dixon, as he's now going to cross the line with 10 seconds remaining. The Kiwi crosses the line and goes back up to 20th, and no improvement for Esteban Ocon. So the championship leader only going to be qualifying in P8. Sebastian Vettel now then. Across the line goes to Jones. It's going to be an improvement. It is P2 for Sebastian Vettel. He splits the two Etiads. Vettel gets his EMR onto the front row. The EMR looking quite strong around here in Sao Paulo. I think all the Mercedes teams looking quite good around here in Sao Paulo. As meantime, Hamilton was on a lap as he tries to get that pole back off Fernando Alonso. He's now been pushed onto the second row of the grid. Can he try and get it back onto the front row if he can? So far, Alonso looking good for pole, but this man could possibly be the only man that could stop him from taking the pole position. Can Hamilton make it 2 in a row as he heads down the pit straight? Hamilton across the line. Across the line goes Lewis Hamilton. Can he improve? No, he can't. Stays P3 with that lap. Vettel denies Etihad a chance to lock out the front row here in Brazil. And I think that's everybody done then. So there you have it. It is Fernando Alonso who's on pole position for tomorrow's Brazilian Grand Prix with Sebastian Vettel alongside him on the front row. Vettel's first front row start, I think, since he took pole back at the United States Grand Prix, I think. I could be wrong on that, but that is that then really. And look how close Vettel was. In fact, look at how close the top 3 was on that time. Only 8 thousandths separating the top 3 in the end of that then. But there you have it then, guys. After all of that, here is the grid for tomorrow's Brazilian Grand Prix. Fernando Alonso on pole position with Sebastian Vettel 2nd, Lewis Hamilton 3rd, Max Verstappen 4th, Sergio Perez in 5th, with Kimi Raikkonen in 6th, Nico Hülkenberg 7th, Esteban Ocon, the early championship leader, in P8 with Valtteri Bottas in 9th, Charles Leclerc in 10th, a brilliant qualifying session for him, Kevin Magnussen 11th, Carlos Sainz Jr. 12th, Antonio Giovinazzi 13th, Romain Grosjean 14th, and if we scroll down the rest of the field, it's Daniel Ricciardo 15th, Stoffel Van Dorn 16th, Pascal Wehrlein 17th, Jean-Eric Verne 18th, Brendan Hartley 19th, Scott Dixon 20th, Ed Jones 21st, and Oliver Rowland in 22nd and last. But there you have it then, guys. That is the grid for tomorrow's Brazilian Grand Prix. And that is it for today's live stream. I hope you've enjoyed it. It has been a very exciting qualifying session. The defending champion on pole position. And, well, it's looking to be quite an exciting race. But there you have it then, guys. That has been it. I hope you've enjoyed it. We will see you then, guys, tomorrow at 1 PM BST, not GMT. Just for anybody who lives outside the UK and Ireland. Our clocks go forward tonight. And we go forward an hour to eventually become from GMT to BST. So anybody who lives outside the UK, you may want to check what 1 PM BST is your time. And because it will be different to 1 PM GMT, because we do go forward by an hour, just to let you know. But Until then, guys, that has been it. I hope you've enjoyed it, so thank you very much for watching. I have been JWF1, and I will see you guys tomorrow for the 72 lap Brazilian Grand Prix at 1 PM BST. Until then, take care.